Hello, hello, everybody. Great Monday evening. Welcome again to our session on Free to Choose Forgiveness. My name is Dr. Anissa Short. And today, unfortunately, we are not graced with the presence of Dr. Norma McLaughlin. She's recovering from some travel. So we extend our best wishes to her as she recuperates and gets better and gets stronger. And I'm sure she'll be back with us at our next edition. But the show must go on, ladies and gentlemen. And today we have got another fantabulous guest, Miss Tisa Hester, all the way from Fayetteville, North Carolina, which is the city in which we reside. She is a licensed clinical social worker. I think that's her title. Which, better yet, I'm not going to even jack up her title. I'm going to allow her to give you her information about herself. But we're talking about forgiveness. We're continuing with our session on forgiveness, specifically on today on how forgiveness or the choice to forgive or not has an effect on us relationally. And Tisa is a great person to have to discuss that further. So Tisa, thanks so much again for accepting this assignment to be with us today. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then we'll just dive right into the topic of discussion.
Okay. Well, my letters, I have an LC, so I am licensed clinical, but it's mental health counselor. So you got part of it right. But we all do the same things. I am currently running a small private practice, which allows me to set my own schedule. Hey, for entrepreneurship. I am a 23-year Navy veteran. I retired. Don't even ask me when. I just know I retired. Yay. I'm a mother of five. After August, they will be 21, 23, 25, 27, and 29.
Oh, wow.
So it was a little bit busy, in my private practice, I see a lot of different people. I mean, I see everyone, but primarily, as of my last few years, I've been seeing a lot of people transitioning to adulthood. It's not what they thought. Military spouses, women and men, and most of them at some point have some type of trauma in their background, whether it be one time or just what we call trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma, which is complex trauma. And I, try to help them get to their best thing. My motto is hope for the hopeless, healing for the hurt, and empowerment for those that feel unempowered. So um, that's what I do.
Well, thanks so much for breaking it down for us. You made it plain. Thank you for your service. How did I not know that about you? I thought I knew a little bit. I knew you had five kids, adults,
Yes,
adult children,
now they're
but I
adults.
didn't
Ooh,
know.
thank you, Jesus.
I did not know about your Navy service. I didn't know that. But so thanks for your service to our country, and you're continuing to serve because you've gone from active duty military to now serving the military amongst others. So thank you
Mhm.
for continuing to serve. So let's talk a little bit about this whole concept of forgiveness, especially when it pertains to relationships. Now, Lady Norma often has said that forgiveness is a gift that you give yourself. It's freedom that you give yourself. So, with that in mind, how do you see that concept, or how often? Well, let's start first with this. Is forgiveness or the lack of forgiveness something that you notice to be significant with your clients in working with them through trauma or through their life circumstances?
Oh, yes, definitely. Whether it be unforgiveness of self, unforgiveness of a partner, unforgiveness of someone in their life that has wronged them. Um, yeah, some of them unforgiveness of the system that they find themselves in. So unforgiveness rather, is something that on some level plays into a lot of it. When we talk about things like anger, resentment, um, sometimes fear and guilt, all of them can to some degree be replaced to some form of unforgiveness.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what? On the surface, for those of us who are not in your field of study or in your practice, a lot of times we think about if we had, something to happen to us as a child, maybe it was perpetrated by a parent or a sibling
Mhm.
or just someone we know, and we say we go on with life, but when we don't, but we still harbor a lot of emotions tied to that circumstance or that situation. We don't really see it as having an effect on us as we attempt to move forward. But as you've just referenced, is that when they have anger, severe frustrations, things that they can't coping, issue with coping with change. A lot of that stems back to that unforgiveness that they've been harboring.
Mhm. It's definitely, definitely. And oftentimes you may not even see it as unforgiveness. That's usually that will come in, um, you know, lots of relationship problems. It's always something there. I was just recently reading something as I was preparing for this, that sometimes the act of unforgiveness is actually due to an attempt to reduce the stress and as a regulation in the term. I think the point that they were mentioning, oftentimes in a relationship where there's infidelity, if they stay unforgiveness, because you do the avoidance and you try to avoid, isolate yourself from that person. And in a sense, although it's hurting you in their mind, it's like, okay, I need to do this because I'm really stressed out. I can't deal with this now, so I'm just not going to talk to them. Then you don't talk. Then you, as they say, you rehearse that conversation in your head. And when you do respond to them, you are not responding to the actual conversation, but the one that you have had, where you have answered questions for both you and them.
Oh yeah, right,
Yeah,
right.
we've all probably
That's
done that. Well, I know such and such, and then so you're already at a 10 even before you start the, the conversation.
conversation. I can
Yeah,
see what
so
you mean by that.
and it's hard, and oftentimes people don't even realize it. But other times I've talked to people, it's been a series of asking questions and kind of narrowing it down. And then when you get to the root, it's like unforgiveness, and then you have that conversation. Is it them that you really haven't forgiven yourself? And sometimes a combination of both. Not for having not forgiven them for the harm that they feel they've um, encountered, but also not forgiving themselves because they often beat themselves. Well, how could I have been that stupid? I
Gotcha.
should have known better.
Yeah.
So they beat themselves up. Then oftentimes too, that leads to some mistrust. So then you go into the next relationship. If you haven't forgiven, you're already, as I say, I'm going to excuse this. But my clients know I'm kind of real. You go into the relationship, but I wish a nigga would button half pushed. Uh, um, so you're already waiting for something to happen. So you tend to be reacting when there's no need to necessarily react that
Right.
certain way. There's a theory. There's several different theories that go that where it's like, you're in protect mode. There's internal family systems where like we're a sum of a bunch of parts, and each person in the family plays their role. And oftentimes the protector is the one that has aggressive the anger, and oftentimes they're in that role when they don't need to be, and that's when the problem comes. So you got it's also leads to stuff like depression.
Gotcha. So it really avalanches is what I hear you say.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you think you're avoiding because don't want to add the stress to bring it up, but in the
Yeah.
meantime, you're harboring resentment and you're always on 10. Every time someone
Mhm.
says something, you're lashing out. It's not because of the
Yeah.
immediate situation, but
Yeah.
because you have unresolved issues, and then one thing leads to the next. You just go from one one issue to another. When you
Mhm.
find that people are in your conversations with them, and forgiveness is the culprit, whether it be they're unforgiving someone else, or even not even forgiving themselves. What are the steps that you advise that they take? Are they different, or are they the same
Well, no, I
depending
mean
on?
it's pretty much all the same. A lot of a lot of people I deal with trauma, and a lot of times they think they've gotten over it. In this forgiveness piece, it's because they're not dealing with it anymore. If I don't think about it, then I've gotten past it. Or oftentimes in what we say in the field of trauma, we're not treating the trauma itself, but we're treating the legacy of trauma,
Gotcha.
pretty much what trauma left behind. And I find oftentimes when there's issue of forgiveness, it's usually due to the fact that they're probably believing something about forgiveness that may not be true. So I usually go over myths of forgiveness. I would
Well,
like
let's
to
talk
say
about that. Let's
I
talk
would like
about
to
that.
say I came up with this nice little list, but I didn't. So, um, you know, so so some of the common myths about there's probably more, but I usually just go over these 10. The number one myth, they're not in any particular order, but the number one on my sheet,
Gotcha.
to forgive means to forget about what happened. I mean, there are a lot of people, that really think I can't forgive because, then that means I'm just, I forget about it. I'm going to forget about it. I can't forget about it. So how can I forgive? And the truth is that, you may still remember the incident that led to the emotional pain, but the memory will no longer carry the emotional charge as it once had if you,
Gotcha.
forgive. So then there's the other one, that a lot of us feel, and I've heard it myself, in the religious sector, is that forgiveness can be only accomplished if I'm a spiritual or religious person. Forgiveness, it can, be accomplished by anybody who's willing. I tell everybody, it's a choice. The thing is, can you see the value in it for yourself? Is it, do you love yourself enough to give yourself that gift of forgiveness? And then people say, I don't feel like it. So they probably, the other myth is I got to feel like it before I can forgive. Well, so, well, actually, it's a choice. It's not a feeling. It's a choice. It's available at any time. It doesn't deny your feelings when you decide to make that choice to forgive. Actually, it's kind of opposite because you have to acknowledge that your feelings are hurt. So what are you asking for forgiveness? Are you not forgiving someone for? Because you actually do realize, like, I am hurt and I need to get past this. So you do have to be very aware of the hurt in order to do that. And then there's the one that a lot of people will, hold their breath and gonna turn blue in the face about. I can only forgive if the other person asks for it or apologizes first. How many times have we been offended by somebody and they didn't even know that they
They
offended us?
offended
We
us.
waiting on them
Right.
for an apology. Well, pigs will fly if you're waiting on that person to add to apologize, especially if they don't know that they or don't feel that they've done anything worth apologizing for you for. And in some cases, depending on your apology language, that's a for another segment. No matter how, if they don't do it the way that you feel it should be done, it's not going to matter anyway.
Right.
So basically, if you're at or waiting for the other person to take the first step, like I said, you'll be waiting for the rest of your life. So if you're to resolve the pain that you carry because of unforgiveness, you need to take the first step. You know, so can you forgive them even if they don't? This sometimes is a hard one for those that have been in abusive relationships sometimes, or those that may have been sexually molested and that person is no longer here, so they didn't really get that closure. So that, we work with them in that case of, okay, if they never say, okay, you're not going to get an apology because they're no longer in existence. So, does you want to continue like this, or what do you want to do? So, working through things like that with them. Then another one that people tend to, cling on to that can get in the way of forgiveness is forgiveness means pretending that nothing has happened. Um, Again, the opposite is true. Again, you got to facing the upsetting situation and acknowledge the fact of it. It means acknowledging the emotions that have risen out of the upsetting situation. So, and then of course, I must forgive immediately. And I think sometimes as parents, we're guilty of this. Somebody will do something and you need to go to apologize and you need to forgive them. You say you're sorry, you accept their apology. And oftentimes, you're not ready. So the person apologizes, they don't mean it, and you don't really want to forgive them at that point. You want to be in your feelings for a minute. I like
Right.
that. Say,
Right.
be in your feelings, have your pity party, just don't stay there. Um, so you got to respect, as an individual, you have to respect your readiness because you want it to be genuine forgiveness. So you have to
Right.
accept your readiness and your willingness to forgive. Sometimes
Right.
that takes a little bit of work because you have to really work through some things before you are willing to do that. And then let's see, then the other one, which will have us here till Jesus come, just waiting. I must have a guarantee that I won't be hurt again.
Mm.
I
That's not
mean, that
realistic.
it's not a realistic expectation. Now, there's no guarantees that you won't get hurt again. Forgiveness in itself is unconditional and it is an expression of letting go of the past. In contrast, holding on to the hurts does not guarantee that you're not going to get hurt either.
It's true. That's true.
So, what do you want to put your energy in?
Right. That's good, Tisa. That's really good.
So then it's like, I'm again, this is kind of I kind of led into this earlier. I'm supposed to forgive because my religion says I should. How many times have we heard that?
Yeah.
Jesus forgave us all our sins, and also we should easily be able to forgive everybody else. So think of all the things that we've been forgiven from. Well, it's a choice that is motivated by the benefit and advantage to you in your life. If it's something you should do, you probably won't. You could, you might, and if you choose to, you will. So it's kind of one of those things like, not everybody is as I've heard something. I'm a baby Christian. I'm not there. God's not finished with me.
I'm not
There,
there yet. God's not
all
through with me
these
yet.
things,
Yeah, right, right,
but I think this really understanding. Not everybody has that in depth, aha, skies open revelation that that's what something is done
right.
for me.
And every
You know,
circumstance is not the same either. Whereas
yeah,
one situation may be easier to get past and to say, I choose to forgive and move
yeah.
forward. Other circumstances may take a little more grit.
And it may take some truly working and healing on, and so there's just some folks, there's just some stuff you're gonna take with you. You're gonna take with you, and you have to answer that on your own. I just think it's just too much energy. Right? That's a whole lot of energy.
Yeah, it
Um,
is. It
and
is.
then the another myth is that the forgiveness for the benefit of others. Like, why would I? That's helping them. You know, so basically, but it's not. Forgiveness is for your benefit. It's like if I'm, the one who releases to live my life again, it's kind of like it almost falls into that same thing. It's like, you sitting over there angry, unforgiveness, like you drinking poison and expect another person to die.
Exactly, exactly.
So,
Especially when you made reference to earlier that when a person chooses not to forgive or they're harboring unforgiveness, it leads to anger issues. It leads to frustration. It adds stress on their life. It can, as we have been told, and we'll be talking with some physicians. It even begins to have a physical effect on your body.
oh yeah,
So,
like
so
blood
when one
pressure,
chooses
heart
to forgive,
disease,
right, everything.
and it also
So the
like give
choice to
somebody, and you give
say
somebody.
it
Why you
again.
want to give somebody that kind of control?
Exactly, T. So that's why I say that, the just to touch on the point that you made when people say, well, if I choose to forgive, that means I'm saying I'm giving them I'm saying what they did was okay. No, you're not saying what they did, what happened was okay. You're not saying what that person perpetrated against you is okay. You're not saying any of that. You're
Yeah.
saying I choose to move on and not seek revenge.
Yeah, well,
Not because
so the folks got to work on that part too.
they gotta work. Yeah, they gotta work on because I deserve to have a better quality of life, and my quality of life is gonna be adversely affected if I don't choose, as you
Yeah.
said before, to forgive. So I
Well,
love. Was that all 10 of
well,
your
we got the
points?
10-1. You kind of talked on that to forgive. Then, like the 10-1, to forgive means that I'm approving of someone's negative behavior. And forgiveness does not say, hey, sure, go ahead, do that thing to me again, which a lot of people saying is like, well, if I'm doing that, I'm giving them okay. And it's like, actually, it's not. Hopefully, what happens if you're truly forgiving and the person is receptive to what's going on is they're going to acknowledge the hurtful situation. And in context of relationship, like you said, you can't guarantee that you're not going to be hurt again, but the idea is that you will not, if you care about me like you say you care about me, you will not do that particular thing again, and you will take my hurt into account the next time you get ready to do something or say something. you'll
Right.
you know you take some of that into account. And, usually when we work through these, we talk about, so which one of these do you think you're holding on to? So then we'll process that, and then we'll say something simple. Okay, what's one tiny step do you think that you could take towards resolving this for you. Some
That's
I
good.
don't know, some I don't know, and then I may use something like, okay, I've been using a technique lately called sand tray therapy, and I just really much have them kind of like create a tray. If you come into my office, it looks like Happy Meals have exploded. So I have a lot of miniatures. They just have them build a tray. Okay, like what would if you were to do this? Let's just say if you were to do this. Not saying that you have to, but if you were, what might I'll make let's show me what your life is like now, living with this unforgiveness. What might it look like, you think, if you were to get past this, you can let this go? And then they create the things, and we talk about what it is, what it looks like now, what it would look like, and then what's one thing that you think, if you were to pick a miniature, I said, pick a miniature that you think that would move you towards where you want to go, and they'll do that, and we'll discuss what was that about that, and that kind of helps them process through some things. And it's like,
That's
oh,
good.
sometimes stuff comes up that we didn't even know. There have been times with this particular technique we may have started about talking about forgiveness, and something else came up, and it just kind of like, okay, which is the theory is that the brain's going to do what the brain needs to do to heal. We're
That's
just
good.
giving a little kickstart. So yeah.
That's
So
good.
but I often give people that, and they'll sit and they'll marinate on it. Some of them will come back and they're like, I'm kind of doing all of these.
I got you.
And
All of the above, right?
so
I
all of
love
the
that
above,
list.
and some of them, but one that I hear quite often is that if I forgive, that means I'm approving of someone's negative behavior.
No,
And you know,
and that's
so
not the
and
case at all. I think
yeah,
it's good we
and
have this conversation because I truly believe that in not just in my conversation with you today, but even in the conversations we've had with others, that is bringing, if nothing else, is bringing to light what truly forgiveness is, so people will have a
mhm,
better understanding. Your list is very comprehensive, and it sounds like you've probably hit on every possible reason why someone may not want to forgive, but that's just because we've been misinformed or miseducated about what the choice of freedom or forgiveness is. It is a choice. It's not an emotion. You know
yeah.
what I mean? It's a principle that you choose to adapt to your life, and it sometimes is easier than others depending on the circumstance or the
Mhm.
situation at hand, but it's still something that's viable because our quality of life depends on it. I think there's, and not only just physically, but as you were saying, relationally. Tisa, I appreciate your time today, and I love your comprehensive checkpoints of 10 and your sand trade. I've seen the sand, so I know which is since I've been in your office. But listen,
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, you want
Anything
to come
else?
by
Any
and play in
last
the sand one
comments?
day? Come on, you can come by and play in the
I
sand one day if you want
might
to.
have to
Come on.
come by. Yeah, just for relaxation purposes. Any last comments or statements you want to
No,
make as it pertains to?
I think this is something that that is very timely, especially with everything that is going on right now in this world. We have to forgive ourselves. Definitely forgive others, because people out here are. I don't know what happened these last 2 years. I don't know if we're being cooped up. What happened? It broke something in folks, but
Yeah,
there's a lot of pent up, anger that I guess before you could kind of disperse it, and now that we're getting back, it's finally have a chance to get out, and it's not necessarily coming out in healthy ways.
yeah,
So forgiveness, some patience, are some things that we definitely need.
that's true.
So
That's
if you
true.
want, I will, still I can shoot you this, then you can make it available on your
Oh, I will. That would be great. Yeah, share that with me, and then I'll make sure we put it in our social media
sure.
platforms to be able to share with our audience. So, thank you again, Tisa.
All
I so
right.
appreciate your time this Monday night, and to everyone who have chosen to join us today. We do plan to be back next Monday. Now, next Monday is the 4th of July, so we may be,
Mm,
celebrating Independence Day. But if not, we'll have a recording. We will be continuing our conversations through the month of July. We have physicians available that's going to be talking about. We're going to have some other people talking about from a spiritual or relational standpoint. Forgiveness affects every aspect of our life, and we want to paint that picture and make it plain so that not only we can be better informed of what truly forgiveness is, but not only that, but choose to forgive, so our quality of life is much better as a result of it. Thank you again, Tisa, for hanging out with me today. It's been a great
Okay.
Monday. I appreciate your time. And to everyone, thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you next week.
Okay. Anytime, just don't hesitate. I'm local. All right.
Thanks,
Talk to
Tisa.
you later. Bye
Take
bye.
care. Bye bye.